Our mission, Helping Parents Heal, is a nonprofit organization dedicated to assisting bereaved parents. Through support and resources offered, we aspire to help individuals become shining light parents, meaning a shift from a state of emotional heaviness to one of hopefulness and greater peace of mind. Helping Parents Heal goes a step beyond other groups by allowing the open discussion of spiritual experiences and afterlife evidence in a non-dogmatic way. Helping Parents Heal affiliate groups welcome everyone, regardless of religious or non-religious background, and encourage open dialogue. Attendance at all Helping Parents Heal meetings is voluntary. All discussions that take place at affiliate-led meetings are confidential. We hope that participants will learn from and share with each other. Zoom meetings run by leadership are not confidential. These meetings typically feature guest presenters and are posted on YouTube so that affiliate members worldwide can watch and benefit. Neither type of Helping Parents Heal meeting is designed to replace traditional therapy or spiritual counseling. Helping Parents Heal offers a wide variety of speakers, allowing parents to learn about many possible ways to heal. This includes presenters covering progressive topics such as afterlife evidence and connecting with our children who have passed. The views expressed by our guest speakers may or may not reflect the opinions of Helping Parents Heal leaders and members, so we ask that you take from their presentations whatever may benefit you personally. Welcome, everyone. We're so glad you could join us, and thank you, Jackie and Gordon, for being here.
Yes, thank you, Jackie and Gordon. Thank you, Irene. And I'm going to read a short bio for Gordon. And I think, as I say, that a lot of you already know him and have followed his classes and seen him work. But he is an international medium, public figure, and author. He is hailed by the UK's media as Britain's most accurate medium, and there is no doubt that Gordon Smith is the real deal. Gordon has been the subject of 7 years of testing at Glasgow University by Emeritus Professor Archie Roy, head of the Scottish Society of Psychical Research, whose finds were published in 3 scientific journals. Gordon is internationally recognized as one of the world's leading psychic mediums, spiritual teachers, and he's also the author of 20 books, which have sold over 1 million copies in many different languages. He has the reputation of being an authentic, all-around expert in spiritual awareness and psychic studies. He was the keynote speaker at our Helping Parents Heal conference, and he donated an original work of art which was entitled In the Light, All Our Angels, which raised thousands of dollars for Helping Parents Heal, and we are extremely grateful. Gordon is also a talented, obviously, writer, and today we're going to be speaking about his newly published work, Where Two Worlds Meet, which at first look might seem to be a book for children or adolescents, but it's actually a book for all of us to teach us about how to surmount the passing of a loved one. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Gordon Smith. Welcome, Gordon.
Thank you so much, Elizabeth and Irene, and to everyone. Thank you. It's a pleasure, as always, to come and speak to you guys.
Oh, we're so happy to have you here. And this book is one that Irene and I absolutely love to read, and it's going to be available to the public on the 1st of August.
Yeah.
So right now it's already available to pre-order, but I would love for you to tell us a little bit about the book and what it was that inspired you to write the book.
Well, the book, first of all, has been with me in different formats in my mind since I was quite young myself. As I reread the book and go over it, I realize a part of the main character was me. Because when I was a little boy, I was taken to live with my cousin who was dying of cancer. And during the final year of his life, I was basically his friend going towards death. And his parents just went into what I could only describe as a darkness. And that was the first experience I had of grief, I suppose, in my life. And all I did was trying to make them happy, both of them. And as a child, you don't want to say they were like my parents, they weren't my actual parents, but I just wanted to make these two beautiful people happy again. And I didn't know how to do it. So I suppose that feeling was always in me to, how can I make people happy who are sad? And of course, as I develop as a person, mediumship comes into my being. That was always there as well. And I saw light around people. And I saw no light around people who had lost someone. So the book a lot was about light and shadow. The light of our life, the shadows that come into our life and cloud us from that natural light. And I have two sons, but when I was in my 20s, I would travel to spiritual churches to give readings to people, live readings. And my sons would always ask questions, as children do. And they would always say things, but if that woman's dead, why are you talking to her? And how can you really hear her? So my kids needed some kind of explanation, because death is always seen as a terribly bad thing. And beyond the grave, all children kind of know as like monsters, vampires, things like this, zombies. So I started telling them stories when they were very young about a place called Lightland. And this is where people went and animals went when they left the hard body. So I created this idea for my children that we have a hard body, this one. But when the hard body goes, the light body, it's the light body that thinks. It's the light body that creates. It's the light body that dreams and remembers. So all of that will go on to Lightland, and every story of Lightland would have its own special moral, a moral that they could learn something from. So Lightland was already born in me. And then I worked with Tibetan Buddhists on creating a card deck and a teaching about the natural elements. So I took myself to the countryside in Scotland, which is incredibly mystical. And I found a wonderful landscape, which I called the Dip and Dells. And it just formed in my mind. I have a complete bond and love of nature, all things natural. So therefore, it's easy for me to close my eyes and become a part of nature. There was something that happened just around the time I started to actually write the book. I was with the woman at Penguin Books, and she said, have you never thought about writing a book for children with loss? And I said, yes. And we started to talk, and she said, if you do, I will publish it. And I thought, okay, I will try. And the first draft of the book took me 1 week. It poured out of me. And then I re-scripted it, edited and whatnot. And the whole process didn't take that long. And I gave it to the lady at Penguin, and she said, oh, I won't be able to publish that. And I said, why not? She said, it's beautiful, but I can't publish that book. She said, you have gatherings of animals. That sounds pretty much like gatherings of witches. I said, well, only if you think that way. It's gatherings of animals. It's life coming together to support life that's had loss. Oh, really? She said, look, I can't do that. But try and understand this. I was the first person to turn down Harry Potter. She said, so if that's anything to go by, this book will become a great success. And I just laughed. I said, don't worry about it. I said, but you inspired me to write it. Thank you. And I'm so glad she did. Because in the book, I talk a lot about thin places where two worlds meet. So, and people don't realize you already go to thin places when you need help. You go to the beach, you go to the mountains. The beach is where the land meets the water meets the sky. The mountains, like the ones in the picture behind Elizabeth, the land meets the sky. This is where two worlds meet. In places like that, there are thin times. Times like coming out of sleep in the morning is a thin time, when you have your most vivid dreams that are quality, where you could reach up and touch your child or someone you've loved and lost. Because in that time, in that moment, two worlds come together, and only for a moment. So they probably happen more than you realize. So within this book, I'm able to tell messages to people about loss. And that's what I love about it, because it's a teaching book. And one of the things as a medium I saw so much when I went to a home where somebody had lost a child, and this was the big inspiration really. And I would see another child there who was lost. And they were lost because their parents were lost. And these little kids would look at me with big eyes as though, please, mister, help, help. They just screamed, help. So for me, I had to address every pair of eyes that asked me for help. And that's what I've tried to do in this book, address the child's misunderstanding of grief so that
And
grief becomes a thing. And that really was the whole motivation, if you like, was to heal grief and make it clear, make it light, not shadow, bring it into the light.
And it is such a healing book. And just to let people know a little bit about the book, in the book, Dill's sister, after quite some time, passes of cancer. So Amber passes, and then they move to the Dippendales to be able to get away from the city and into a healing place. And one of the major themes in the book is that Dill is healing. He's moving forward, and he is much younger. He is doing so because he's communicating with the animals. He's communicating with his grandmother, who is very, very wise, but he understands that his sister Amber is actually not gone. His parents are having an incredibly hard time throughout the book. But what is so interesting to me is that this allows parents to understand too that in spite of the fact that siblings may look like they're doing okay, they do need to be validated. They do need help in moving forward. And I think that you do this so beautifully in the book, showing the progression and the healing of Dill, as well as the parents.
Thank you, because that to me is the whole reason for taking the book into nature, because one of the things I did when I was researching children's emotions, because you have to be responsible when you put out a book towards children, that you are not giving them your own personal beliefs or stuff. And I realized that there was a group at the time in Australia that were helping children to cope with grief by taking them into nature and letting them see the naturalness of death through animals and plant life and things, but also the rebirth and the renewal of things. So for me, it made great sense to create a language between Dill, the 10-year-old boy, and the animals. And I called that language sense. So only children and animals can talk sense. Adult humans had lost their ability to understand sense. And that was through their grief. And as a medium, I understand that when somebody has a terrible loss, they can't even remember the loved one for a moment. They get frightened because the clarity they had in their life appears to be gone in that time. So the fear, which is part of the grief, the fear of disconnection, is often something that hampers people to even think. Whereas a little boy at 10 or a little girl, their mind wants the information. They don't want to be kept in the dark. In the book, Dill calls it when I went into the dark time. But the dark time is ignorance. It's not being told. And in the dark, when you're not being told, you become afraid. So the fear we have in the dark is lack of light and lack of knowledge. And he tries to understand, but why am I seeing light around all these animals? Why are they happy? Why are my parents not light? And they keep saying that my sister's in heaven, a beautiful place with my grandpa and God, and it's wonderful. But why are they so sad? So he can see through their grief because there's no light. So again, it was a nice way of explaining it, that the boy's emotions were actually causing him to look for answers in other places. And that comes through his connection with nature. When all of a sudden, the world changes for him, and there's life in the air. It's like, wow, everything in the air is alive. Death was the thing that was holding down the, you know, talking about your loved ones, keeping them alive, giving them the right to be animated again is part of grief. It's the good part of grief. It's the part of grief that says it's okay to talk about them. It's okay to cry about them. But it's still even better to laugh at the times we laughed with them. And that, I hope, is some of the messages that come through this really lovely little book.
Oh, they do. And one of the things that I love about the book, and I know that Irene did too, is just the whole focus on Mother Nature and the changing of the seasons.
Yeah.
And you create these four incredible women who are representative of the seasons, and they have beautiful names. And I was going to ask you if you might be able to pronounce the names, because I don't think that either Irene nor myself would be
Oh,
right.
and Gordon, when you're doing that, could you also when you talk about the goddesses, are the goddesses actually spirit guides?
They are goddesses. They are goddesses of Scotland, Ireland, Wales, England, southwest England, west of France. It's the Celtic connection. So a very Celtic connection. And they are goddesses in paganism. They are genuine goddesses. I've just a little bit of poetic license, changed the names slightly, and some of them. So I added a little bit. So if we begin with the old one, Kailisha. So she's the Cailleach. She is a Scottish goddess. And the Cailleach is depicted as an old woman with long white hair in a braid. And when she makes her appearance to the world, she undoes her braid and she lets her hair down and she covers the land with her white hair to let people know winter has arrived. And in her keep, she holds everything down. Nothing's dead in winter. It's held for preservation so that it can renew itself beneath the ground. So that when she leaves the earth and Brigisha comes, the young one, and she bursts out of the earth with yellow hair and everything comes up out the ground, the daffodils and all the different little beautiful flowers, and she releases everything back into the world that the Cailleach or Kailisha held prisoner. So she's really Bridget. So she is the young one. Now Lashisha is the summer goddess. She's the goddess of healing. So she keeps everything in her warmth and in her light. And summer is healing and relaxing. So she allows everything to be in her thing, and everything can sleep and be hazy. She's a real goddess of, kind of middle-aged woman, but good middle-aged, growing nicely. And then Erkisha is the autumn goddess. She comes in her auburn hair with all the colors of golds and yellows and oranges, and she dances in the sky to let them know that it's time for change. And really that's who the goddesses are. And each one represents a season. But the whole thing has a motherly feeling, a Mother Earth feeling. They're all daughters of Mother Earth. And each one themselves goes through stages of life. And each one lives and dies for a time and renews to show us that life and death are impermanent, that there is a stage to all things. That living and dying is not final. Living and dying are not opposite. They are part of the same thing. They are not end to end. They are a circle. The living and dying is a cycle, not an end to end. It's not polaric. So, but yeah, so I love my ladies. And that was the reason that Penguin wouldn't, they thought they were witches. They're goddesses. They're part of a religion, for goodness sake. And they are, but they also show stages of living and stages of change, stages of settlement, and all the different things. And it's something that this little boy learns through his grandmother, and it's becoming apparent that his grandmother's quite pagan herself, and she has feelings that connect her to the elements and to nature, and yeah. But Kailasha and or Kailasha, Erkisha, Lashisha, and Brigisha. So
Oh, those are so beautiful. I knew it. I knew you would be able to pronounce them so much more
yeah,
beautifully than I could. And I also just wanted to say that it's interesting that all of them are nurturing and they're necessary for
yeah,
renewal, but they're also to be feared. They're not, they are, um, everyone respects all of the creatures in this story, respect these goddesses so
Yeah.
much. And even the grandmother does. And
Yes.
obviously, Dill develops a communication with all of these different animals
Yeah.
very, very early on, especially the rabbits, which is beautiful, as well as with his own dog. But I would love for you to tell a little bit about that part of the story and how it relates to your own life when you were younger.
Well, yeah, the language of sense develops a lot for children. The language of sense I made up, but I try to create what happens to a young person who has mediumship. So for me, it would be, I would sometimes quite literally hear what people were thinking. Now, that came at the time when got stronger when my cousin died, because people put me in the dark. So in the dark, your mind reaches out. So you start to try to understand what they're doing. And for me, I started to see pictures, hear voices, feel things that nobody else could. So I've really allowed the boy to open up at the same age I was, 10, and feel. And do you know, I've just actually realized that that was the age that did actually happen, 10 years old. And to feel a connection with the spirit of people rather than people. So he became spiritually and even emotionally connected to his parents, and he'd never done that before. He could hear what they were thinking, even though they were saying, yeah, I'm feeling really good. And he'd hear a different voice. So he was hearing the sounds they were making, not the words they were saying. And the sounds they were making were not reflecting the words they were actually using. And then again, you know, connecting with animals was something that I've done all my life. Easier than with people. um, and I was just sharing with you guys, when I was about 12 years old, I had a beautiful Irish red setter dog, and she and I were sitting in the countryside one time, just on a beautiful summer's day. And as we sat there, I was so aware to look down, and there was a young rabbit sitting at my side. It had come out of nowhere and it sat. It was not afraid. It just comfortably sat beside me. And I had a dog, big dog beside me that could have killed it. And somehow that little rabbit knew it was safe. And I felt this, and I never tried to disturb it or do anything. And I just, in my mind, said, it's okay. And there was almost a sense of the rabbit saying, I know. And then it was gone. And I thought, wow, that is so cool that animals are not afraid. I have had a time when a bird came and landed on my arm one time, a white dove. I just moved into a new house in the west of Scotland, and the neighbour came out to welcome me, and a white dove flew down and landed on me. And I said, this doesn't normally happen. I thought, oh my God, these people are going to think I'm a wizard or something. I don't normally attract animals to come to me. So I think, no, I don't think, I know, animals know who to trust. And I wanted in the book to show the best of nature, to let the little boy experience that, because nature's a mother. The main characters of in the sky and the land are the goddesses. They're motherly creatures. That boy had lost his mother to grief. So he needed the love of a mother. So he got it through his grandmother, his dog who was female, through the mother rabbit, through the owl who's a mother. All these animals were feminine. He'd lost the one thing a child needs growing up. His mother, though she wasn't dead, but she wasn't there. So he found mother nature anywhere he could find it. And he learned to communicate naturally, which I call sense. He talked sense.
That's beautiful. And his parents were talking nonsense. Obviously, they
Yeah,
weren't saying the things that they really meant.
yeah,
But could you tell us a little bit more in your experience, because you were talking about this before the meeting? Children have an innate way of being able to communicate and to understand messages from the other side
yeah,
that unfortunately go away as we get older. Um, Could you maybe talk a little bit about that and
Sure.
what we can do to cultivate the child within us and make sure that we do hold on to those abilities that we were born with, that we're all born with?
Well, I think as a child, we don't understand skepticism. It's not in us. We are innocent. So to a child, things are beautiful. I used to see lights everywhere. I could walk into a room or even in the garden and lights would appear. And I think, oh my God, look at all these lights. Now, I still see them as an adult, but not as pronounced. They don't have the same definition that they had when I was a child. Because as a child, I didn't apply logic to them. I also didn't ask them for anything. I kind of understood, oh, wow, these are fun. As an adult, you think, what can you do for me? How can I get you to stay longer? What are you really? You apply a million questions and you ruin the moment. So children who communicate with spirit or spirit who communicate with children can do so because the child's aura is open. The child is in a thin place. A child is almost in an altered state of consciousness because their attention is not focused on, I need to do this, I have to finish that, I must get there. A child is free, and it's in that freedom that things happen. When my cousin died, soon afterwards, I would be in the playroom where he and I played, and I didn't know this till many, many years later. And as I started to play, he would come and play with me. And I never flinched. I just said, okay, Stephen, do that. I had no idea for years his mother, my aunt, would stand outside that room door and she would cry. And she would think, wow. And we didn't understand. She didn't want to let me go home. I ended up staying in London, going to school in London, growing up for a bit of my life with that aunt. And partly it was she didn't want to let me go because as long as I was there, her boy hadn't died. And she didn't disturb it. She let it happen. And of course, for me, Stephen was right beside me. And we talked all the time. And at night when I would go to bed and he'd be in his bed and I'd say, good night, Stephen. And he would say good night. And it was like, it was because nobody disturbed it. It was innocent. Nobody added to it or said that's bad or it's good, or it was just natural. So for you to find the naturalness of communication yourself, like a child, then you have to go into the child within and imagine, strongly imagine, use your imagination. Imagination is an incredible tool for spiritual communication. You need it. So don't judge your imagination. It's not fantasy when you allow it. When you allow yourself to truly remember. You see, memories, guys, it invokes such a beautiful connection with your loved ones. And my own spirit guide once taught me, or taught a group of people, that your memories, your loving memories, are the jewels of your mind. And you keep them in a part of your heart. That's the jewel box of your mind right here. And every now and again, it's okay to open up and go in and take one out and look at it and remember why you love it and remember why you keep it here. So open up the jewelry box of your mind, but relive the memory. Don't see it in a distance. Live it in the moment. Remember it to the fullest. That makes you laugh and smile and say, that's okay. And even if you cry at the end of it, that's still okay, because that's a powerful emotional healing tool, is the jewel box of the mind. Don't ever be afraid to take out the jewels and look at them and relive them and say, I'm so glad I have that. And you've all got that.
Yes.
Nice.
Irene, I think Irene has a question right now.
Sure, Irene.
Sure. Gordon, I loved reading about the healing stones, and in my mind's eye, I could picture them. I could feel the warmth from them. Can you talk a little bit about them and how they played an important role in the book?
Absolutely, because again, allowing or talking about emotions to children, once again, you have to be responsible and very appropriate. So I did a lot of research, Irene, first of all, to make sure that the emotions that I talked about were appropriate for children. And I used the stones because the whole idea was that you could touch a stone and it reflected a particular thing within you. So whether that be his mother would be happy, and then as she touched the stone of emotion or whatever, she feels this sadness, but he sees it in her. And whichever stone they go to, you know, it reflects a different emotion. But this was a great way for the little boy to actually watch the whole spectrum of his parents' emotion go from happiness down into the depths of their soul to this horrible grief, to anger. And he could understand the anger, but he couldn't understand the anger if it was dressed up in lies the way they were doing it. And they thought they were keeping him from that. So the stones were an amazing thing for letting go. And he was a big part of getting his parents to that emotional place where they could truly let go, but equally they could let him see inside the shadow that they put around themselves. So I loved creating the stones because it's a natural thing in the countryside. And especially even where I live, if I walk out the back gate of this impermanent house I'm living in, there's standing stones just behind me. So everywhere we go in Scotland and the Highlands, we have lots of standing stones, and some of them are related to what you would think Stonehenge, but they're older than that up here. And we use individual stones for different things. And they are to do with our emotions. And for times of the year, you go to a particular stone to get answers. There's other stones up here, you go to see the future, you hold that stone. So stones had to be a big part of it because it is the earth element. But the other thing is with emotions, because emotions with grief can be two elements together. It can be air and water. So that means you're ungrounded. So stones bring you back to earth. So I needed it to be solid and rock solid, because that's what was missing in that kid's life. He needed foundation again. He needed groundedness. So the stones, though they allowed emotions to go out, they actually afterwards bring you to the ground. And that's what you need to do with loss. It's natural to go into your mind and to go out of your mind. But at some point, you need to touch earth again, because there is a life after death for the people still on this planet. And that is another big message that's in the book. There is life after death. Don't worry about your loved ones. They're already there. They've got it. They're happy over there. It's here. So the book had to have a groundedness in it, and the stones represented that for me.
I have to say that Lisa Wilcoxon is saying, "Oh, Gordon, open the jewel box of your mind is magnificently divine." It's true that that whole idea is just so beautiful. And Angelina is saying, "I wish I was there. The stones sound amazing." But I think it sounds a little bit like, I'm sure a lot of people on here, totally different kind of story, but Outlander, where they can time travel through the stones as well.
Outlander.
Stones in Scotland are really, really powerful.
No. Actually, a part of my book doesn't come from Outlander, because the lady who wrote Outlander, the cross-stitch book, I've forgotten her name, but she came to Scotland. She's American, Diana Gabaldon, and she learned the stories here. It's not the standing stones that he disappears through. That is a real myth that she chose, Outlander, but it's not the standing stones of Callanish. It's not those. It's the wish tree in Aberfoyle, and that is in my book. So I use the wish tree for a different reason, for the reason I use it for. And that is, people go there for healing, but it's said that a Catholic priest went there because it was all these folk going and asking the fairies. It's called the Hill of the Fairies, the same as in the book. It's a real place. And this man disappeared through the tree and never came back. And they say he went through a portal, that the tree is actually a portal. So thank you. You don't know that. You just gave me something there, which I love, Elizabeth, because the wish tree is this beautiful place that, if I can quickly condense a story, you will love it. I happened to be there when I was writing this book, and I took my publisher and my friend Dronma, who's the Tibetan Buddhist woman, who's a bit wild and funny and great, but she's an incredible being. She took us there, and all the way there, we had to keep stopping the car. At one point, she thought she'd set her dog in fire. We had to stop. She hadn't. There's the whole story. Another point, she stopped because there was an eagle in the sky. We had to get out of cars. What is it? What is it? Oh, there's an eagle. That means we need to stop here and do this. all of these things happen. Eventually we get to the Hill of the Fairies and we get up there, and this giant Scots pine full of messages on it, messages of hope. People have written wishes. And as we stood there just in silence, we could hear the sound of children coming up the hill. And a little boy and a little girl just stood in front of us. And the little boy looked at me and he said, "Mister," in his little Scottish accent, "are you magic?" And I said, "Me? Yes, I'm magic." And just at that, an elderly couple came up. It was his grandparents. And the little girl looked at Dronma, my friend. She said, "Mrs., are you magic too?" And she said, "Oh, yes, I'm very magic." And at this point, as they came up, the grandparents came towards us and said, "Oh, out of breath coming up that hill." And I said, "What lovely children." She said, "Yes." I said, "Ma'am, are you okay?" She says, "We're doing our best." And she said, "The wee ones, they lost their parents. My daughter died, her husband in a car crash. And we're doing everything. And we brought them here." I says, "For magic?" And she said, "Yeah, we've just told them." Anyway, the little book said, "Nana, that man is by your bedside." And the woman looked at me and said, "Are you the medium guy?" And I said, "Yes." "Oh no," she said. "Oh, I always wanted to meet you." And then the little girl I gave the little boy something off. He said, "I don't know how to talk to my dad. Can you talk to my dad?" And I said, "Sure." So I had a little Mayan medal and I took it and I said, "This is how you talk to your dad. You hold this at night when you go to bed and say, 'Dad, guess what I've done today? Dad, talk to him until you fall asleep.' And then your dad will take you in your dreams to wherever you need to be. You won't always remember it." I said, "But you know you've done it." And then Dronma told a story and gave the girl something. Same thing. And we walked off. The lady and her husband wanted tickets to come and see me doing a show in Glasgow. And I said, "Consider it done." And my publisher said, "Anything you want from us, we will send you everything." So we made a pact to help them, and we did. And as we walked away, it was just this moment. And the little boy said to his Nana, "Oh, you were right, Nana. There really is magic here." It's like, oh, every one of us had a lump in the throat. Oh God, but it was a beautiful thing. And that was because Dronma, who is childlike as a Buddhist, no, stop. Had we gone when we were supposed to go, we would have missed them. But all the stuff that happened, and we just followed her lead. And there we got that beautiful thing. So that to me is a thin place, and it's where anything can happen. You could even disappear and go back in time like Outlander and meet whoever, Jamie and all the people back in time. But yeah, that's magical
Beautiful.
Scotland for you.
So I
Yes.
has another question.
Sure.
Well, it's not a question. It's more of a statement, Gordon. There's one passage that Mrs. Brabbit talks about in the book, and I actually printed it out and I have it here on my desk. I just love looking at it. And she says that every living creature has a light body inside their hard body. And when the hard body dies, the light body goes back to light land. I mean, that's just so beautiful. And it's just such a simple way to talk about it.
And that was what I told my two sons when they were growing up and asking their dad, as a medium, how does it work, Dad? How do you talk to these people? And that was what I'd explained, everybody. So I love that came, again, from a mother, from Mrs. Brabbit, from the wise lady, because again, these are words he wasn't getting from his mum. So all the other mothers, if you like, in nature. And I just love that explanation, because a part of the book, you have to learn that animals kill other animals. And I had to address that in the book. So where is death correct, or where is killing correct? And where it was through hunger and things. And of course, we have what I love, one of my favorite bits of the book is the predator's pardon when they have the court case. I had fun writing. It was for me, it's the funniest part. Oh, the tension and the whatnot. Oh my God. And the grandmother gets hauled up in front of the court, and it's just so fun. But yes, because we have to justify to children as well that there are certain parts of death that are necessary and they happen for a reason. And there's a difference also, and I don't want to ruin all the plots of it, but there is a difference when death is for something, when there's a purpose to death. It's easier to grieve over it, and that's why I created Lightland, so that you could go to Lightland on whatever night when the time was thin, and everybody could come back in light. But not if you're done something unjust. It was all those whose lives had been taken for the good of something else. And therefore, we learn the difference between what is ending a life and what is ending suffering. So there was even a message about suicide and sort of guided death and things like that, euthanasia, to show people that when we do that with our animals and things, that we're doing it to end suffering, not to end a life. So there was nice messages there that I could convey through all of that thing, because there's such a teaching in it. And it's only when death has visited your home that you will look through that particular window and think, I need to know more about this. And I need to know what's right and wrong about it. And I need to know what's the thing that I should do next, and how can I overcome, or how can I fight back? So all of this has a purpose. It's dressed up as a children's book, but so was Harry Potter. And I think more adults have read that than any other book in the world. So every adult I know who's read it, it takes them back to times when they had loss and how they felt. Many people have said, I actually felt the presence of my loved one as I was reading your book. And that was my intention. It most definitely was.
That's so
Beautiful.
beautiful.
Thank you.
And there's one other thing that I wanted to go back to when you were talking about I guess it was your cousin who had passed and
Yes.
living in London and playing in a room with your cousin. I find it fascinating because we have a lot of parents who have siblings who are surviving siblings who are autistic, and many times they will go by the room where the children share a room, and the autistic child is playing with their brother or sister. And this is something that brings a lot of joy to the parents, obviously.
Yeah.
And it kind of makes me, I mean, I'm sure that autistic children are frequently much more in touch with their siblings who have passed, and maybe they don't have as much uh, they don't have as many people telling them that they have to think a certain way.
Yes.
And so they're able to use the abilities that they were born with, that all of us.
And that's a beautiful part of autism, is that a lot of your innocence stays intact.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
pure. And I think that's something that I would easily understand. In fact, my friend who comes out to my house once a week, her grandson is autistic. And she and I just laugh. She's a medium also. And we'll laugh when she'll tell me the stories of the people he talks to. And I'll just say, oh, isn't it fun that he's got you as a grandmother? Because you can just allow that to happen. And she says, I do. She says, I neither encourage nor discourage. I just let it happen. She said, because he's so innocently saying things to people who no one else can see. And another thing there, and some of you may understand this or experience it, your animals, your pets, a lot of them are very much in touch with your loved ones. They can see them, they recognize their presence in a room. Cats are usually the best. But I mean, there are many dogs that just look at a corner all of a sudden. And as a medium, I've given this as messages to many people that, oh, when your son arrives in the room, your dog knows, and they go, oh, is that what's happening? So the spirit can validate that through a medium. I really do get that reaction from the dog or the cat or whatever. So yeah, again, they don't judge. It's the logic in the human brain, not mind, but brain, that needs things to be compartmentalized. And that's not right or wrong. It's just what it does. So when I'm a medium, I don't use much brain activity. We bypass that and we use the mind. So you're working in an altered state. And that's really for you guys to meet your loved ones in that way. It's allowing yourself to go into teaching your mind, not your brain, not to come in, and just let yourself experience it in a sensory way. So it's like you got to practice it, because it might not happen at first, and don't be disappointed. But if you were to sit for a moment and just, relax yourself, get into a state of relaxation. That's the first thing. And the second thing is not overthinking. Don't go in wanting. The minute you go in and say, oh, I need to see you, Corey. You need to be there, Corey. I don't know why I'm saying Corey. Somebody must know Corey. But Corey's here anyway, just to tell Mum, Corey's here. I don't know who you are, my darling, but to tell you I'm here. And I'm not actually doing this tonight, but I'm just to say that I'm allowed to say that I'm here. Don't worry. And can I tell you also? Oh my goodness, I will be there at the birthday. So whoever that's for. Anyway, go into your mind. It just doesn't stop, does it? When you go into your mind, you get yourself into that lovely, relaxed state. And when thoughts come, just let them go, because thoughts are not what you're looking for here. You're looking for feeling. You're looking for impression, something to touch your mind, just a simple thing. And it might just be a feeling, a warmth, a cool, a sensation of tingling somewhere. And when that happens, just say hi. Don't say hi, how are you, and expect an answer. Just say hi or welcome. But don't ask for anything. Learn to build a communication. They're not going to come and put diatribes of information through your ear and voice. If you're not a natural clairaudient medium, that won't happen. So don't ask for words to come. Just say, if you're there, let me feel you, please. They can do that. Start that way and then work it. And, next time I come on, I'll show you how to do that in a more in-depth way. And we'll have a nice gathering with our loved ones, because that's really how I can do things for you. Giving messages out, I may help one or two doing that on a platform like this, but being able to guide you all into a place where it's safe and we create a vibe. Because as a medium, you don't get messages and gifts to people. You change the vibration of the energy so their loved ones can come. They're not talking to me remotely through a device. They come into my vibration. And because they're in my vibration, I can extend that to you. And therefore, I've learned to do that en masse. So I don't need to do that in a one-to-one situation. I can hold an audience in that vibration, and all you need to do is come. I can't make you come, but you have to come if that happens. And we will do that next time, I promise you. Mediumship's not what you think it is. Mediumship's about changing frequency and bringing your light back. So if I can get you into my light, it might reignite yours. And that way you don't lose any more of your child. What you do is you gain a new language to talk to them in a different place. One mother once said to me, whenever I'm with you, I feel as though I have a phone call to heaven. She said, and it's as if my boy's in Australia, not in another dimension. She said, now wait for that moment. And I not only get information through you, I feel it myself. And I said, isn't that beautiful? And she said, well, it is beautiful because I carry that home with me. And that's important. It's not just information. Mediums shouldn't just give information. We should be able to change a vibration. We should be able to bring something back to your energy, to your atmosphere, so that that's what lives on, not the information. You already know the information. If somebody's child on here tonight is Cor or Corey, you already know the name. You just need to know they're there because you haven't heard from them, but now you have. I'm here, Mum. So that's all that happens, and that's only a voice in my ear for a very quick thing. Can I just tell you though, it's always, always, always for me an absolute joy to create any spiritual space. And how I do that through words, art, books, it doesn't matter. If the spirit moves me, I will react.
That's so beautiful. And I I want to be able to have time, and Irene does too, to be able to let people know how to pre-order your
Sure,
book. But there are just a few things in the chat
of
box I'd like
course.
to just point
Sure.
out. One is Charlene is saying, for the first time in 6 months, my heart feels a little lighter. Thank you so much. And
Excellent.
then Deb is saying, I believe fear locks me from that connection. So I think that what you've been explaining tonight is going to be something that will help
Yeah.
all of us arrive at communicating with our children. And then Angelina is saying, can I change my vibration via sound frequencies? Is that something that you know
Yeah,
something about?
yeah, you definitely can do that. Sound, if you can find a pitch or a sound or a tune, or even like a mantra or something, if you listen to certain sounds, everybody has a vibe, and certain sounds make us lift up. Other sounds repel us and we retract from them. So find the vibe that makes you go into that lovely altered state, that between worlds, place where two worlds meet. But that's the thing. You look for a sound that lifts your heart, that talks to here, not brings back nice words and all of that. Songs are good for that, but the tone, the tune, the vibe, it has to have the right pitch for you. And it definitely can, yes, most definitely. The Tibetan Buddhists have been using that technique for many, many years of noise, sound, because it's one of the best ways to touch us is through our hearing. And that resonates right through our whole core if we can do it right. Yeah, go for it.
So Irene, we were hoping to bring Jackie on to
Yes, is
Sure.
Jackie, did you unmute? Here she is.
Yes, I did indeed. So to be able to share with you how to pre-order, let me just show you this. This is Gordon's website, www.gordonsmithmedium.com. One of the lovely ladies tonight has just informed me she's managed to pre-order this from Amazon US. And we were just saying earlier, we were surprised that Amazon in the US didn't stock it. Well, they do. So Gordon, I've added it now to the supplier list. So if you go to, you can go straight to Amazon. But if you want to go to Gordon's website, you will see there's details of a competition. There's the supplier sites here and other sites, but there's a free competition that you can enter. And Gordon has painted the rabbits from the rabbit family, and there are some giveaway posters. You can enter the competition, and it tells you more about it here. And that is from now until the 31st of July. And the book actually publishes on the 1st of August.
And it's going to be a very exciting thing to have the book come out. And so it is possible to pre-order the book. And again, as it definitely is a book for children, for adolescents, but it's that's who it's geared to. But I think that it's a book that definitely is also for adults, because there's so much important information in it for us about connecting with our loved ones in spirit, but also about being able to help our other surviving children to move forward and heal. And that's something that obviously Dill was able to receive from his grandmother, from nature, but not from his parents in the beginning. And I know that it is very difficult in the beginning to be concentrating on a sibling, but I think that this gives a really good viewpoint of what it's like to be that sibling. So I truly appreciate that you've written this. And is there anything else that you'd like to say about the book? We have maybe 5 more minutes left. Gordon?
I think only something I never covered was that there's also a movement, a shift in the life of the parents where they grow, they are touched, and there's a great awakening. And that's, again, based on things I've seen with many, many parents. And I remember one of my lovely, lovely lady friends that I got very fond of. She came to me as a student, and I brought a message through from her son. I always remember the spirit names. His name was Jamie. And she told me when I got news that Jamie was killed, she says, I crawled under my kitchen table and I went into the fetal position and I didn't want to come out. And she said, and nobody could believe my reaction. She said, I myself did not know my reaction because I felt that I was out of my mind. And she said, it took me so long, I thought I'll never, ever recover. She said, and here I am teaching other parents that life goes on. And she said, and people need to know that as bad as you feel in the beginning, she says, and I did. And this is a lady barrister. She is a high-powered lawyer. And she says, I've never cracked under anything. She said, but I realized I could be broken. And that did. She said, but what I've realized, I can be repaired, and I can use what I've learned to heal and help others and show them that you can get out from under the table. You can get up, you can walk, you can function, and you can help other people. She says, so going into that really dark place tells you something. Come out the other side and you'll bring something beautiful with you. She says, and what I've learned is I got my son back. And that lady was taken to a medium a couple of months after the death of Jamie. And she went in and the medium said, she's too bad, I can't help her. She said, but I'm going to ask you to sit here. And he put on a video. And so, what is this? He said, I can't help you, but this man will. And it was me. And he made her watch the video of me giving me messages, done something on TV. And she said, is he real? And she said, so I made it my quest. I came to search for you. And you walked into a room and sat down beside me. And she said, you just looked at me and said, hi, do you know a good lawyer? She said, I am a good lawyer. I said, well, then you and I should talk. And she said, you and I will talk. And we talked and talked and talked. And she said, you know, whatever. I did a reading, brought Jamie through just as she wanted. And she thought, wow. So she's taken that now and uses it as a tool to help parents heal. That is her mission. And it's just incredible. So for me, that's what I hope this little book touches hearts and minds and teaches you, that you cannot die for the life of you. That's my eternal message. You cannot die for the life of you guys.
I love that. And I have to just tell you, Angelina has been posting a lot in the chat box about how she loves this discussion. And she had just posted, thank you all so much, everyone, for your time and energy today. I definitely needed it. And right then you said, Jamie. So she said, Angelina said, my son's name is Jamie. So,
and you know, Angelina, I just heard, get another tat, and this time get, you can't die for the life of you. Okay, and that's from Jamie. You can't die for the life of your mum. There you go. So,
oh, what a wonderful.
I have it here. I have it up here on a phoenix. You can't die for the life of you. I put it on a phoenix. So it keeps coming back and keeps coming back.
Just beautiful. So we're very excited about having a hard copy of this book. I know that a lot of people will be pre-ordering it. We truly appreciate it. Don't forget that there's a contest, so make sure that you enter the contest when you order the book as well. And thank you, Jackie, and thank you, Gordon.
Yes, thank you. This was just such a beautiful hour. Thank you so much. We so appreciate you.
I'll come back and do, I will come back and do something really nice for the parents again, and we'll do a nice session to open up and work with their loved ones. Yeah.
We're due back in September, I believe.
You're coming back in September already. You're already scheduled.
Yay!
Brilliant.
And we ask everyone to unmute and say thank you, and
thank you, Gordon.
Thank you again. It was a great hour.
All, guys. It's
thank
a
you.
pleasure.
Thank you, Gordon.
Angelina,
thank
have
you,
your
Gordon.
tattoo.
Thank you, Jackie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Awesome hour.
Always a pleasure.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody.